There are two big wars being talked about in the media right now, probably more than that are just not in the media. But of course, there's our mini wars in our daily lives, like how to handle the annoying coworker, the pushy family member, or even your own self when you get annoyed at yourself when you're not meeting the standards that you expect of yourself. What I want to do here is start a discussion to go deeper in how we can truly heal, stop, and prevent war. And of course, there's various kinds of war, and they all demand different solutions, different ways of moving beyond them. We've got option one, violence, brute force. Honestly, I'm surprised that that option still exists, but it does. But as many of us know, we don't like it. It doesn't feel good. We don't like a lot of the results of it. It is still part of our human nature to resort to that. It also often doesn't actually give us the results that we want. So that's also what makes it extra interesting that we resort to it. Now I'm going to talk specifically about Israel and Palestine and Gaza and Arabs and all that. And I will put this up front that I'm the type of person who always tries to be neutral and look at both sides. I also grew up with an Israeli family and Jewish. Um, but what I want to say here is that there's the idea of having two states, of thinking, God, if we just do a better job at discussing peace treaties, at coming up with an agreement, that will stop the violence. Just do a better job at it. We've been trying that for a long time. And unfortunately, I'm not sure that that's enough to solve all of the problems. And I am in full agreement with everyone having a right to live in peace, to follow and practice their religion, and to have land, to have a place to live in freedom of the laws that match their nature. So, in that way, I don't like to pick and choose between sides. I feel all humans have that right for existence. My concern is potential implicit and often explicit biases that exist. Like the idea that's put out there that there is a belief that that life would be better, the world would be better if we just wipe out all the Jews. Okay? And maybe that's propaganda and that belief doesn't actually exist, but it seems like it's discussed enough. And that belief also comes from propaganda being fed. So I'm talking about propaganda here, but propaganda leads to biases that we get stuck. So having this conversation and saying, oh, I agree to this and I agree to that, does not erase biases that have been formulated in our bodies from birth. So that's a very serious, deep-seated thing. So this is why I want to go deeper into what can we do as individuals in the way that we vote, in service, to create a different impact. And also to understand more about the psychology here, since I just took a social psychology course. One, the primacy effect. The belief that we hear first, that we're taught first, tends to be the one, that's the primacy, the one that we keep. Okay. Two, belief perseverance. That is this thing that we do where once we form a belief, we hold hold onto it. It perseveres. And 3, for what reason might we hold onto and persevere? To avoid cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance comes up when we notice a clash in our own self between our thoughts, words, beliefs, actions, feelings. And we want to feel like we are good people. We want to feel like we also have a clear identity and like we can belong to a group. So any one of those things mixed together makes us want to avoid shifting a belief, because that could cause that dissonance. That wouldn't feel good. We could lose our sense of identity or lose our sense of belonging to a group. There's a lot of psychological reasons that come with the concept of cognitive dissonance. So there's a lot of research that shows that because of these ideas, because of the biases that we hold on to, that even when we often bring up a very logical argument with lots of facts, that we see people not change their mind. So unfortunately, logic doesn't always work to resolve the challenges that come up. And there are bits of interesting research that show some options, and I'll talk about one of them too. So we don't just have to have this doom idea here, because it's like, are we doomed? I think of what I heard of part of the reason why the Jews had to wander in the desert for 40 years until they found the land Israel was so that an entire generation could die out, because they didn't have the appropriate mindset in order to be at the level to fully receive the greatness of the land of Israel. So it's like, do we need a generation to die out that has a mindset of biases of one group against another, so that we can then have a new concept and live peacefully from there? I mean, I hope not, because really what that means is a lot of wars till we get there. When we live in ego, when we live in understanding life through the 5 senses, then we also get to limited supply. This is visually what I see. I think there's limited supply. I want power. I want money. Right? That also forms the desire for war, for creating conflict between groups. This is also about an identification with our physical reality. So there's also a consciousness to tap into, where we don't define life through the ego, through the 5 senses. And then we lose as much of the need for war and clash between people. This is also to fully live 100% in that, like, extremely advanced. So I don't see myself living fully in that state either. So I'm saying that, but I feel that the more that we uplift our consciousness, and that each of us individually steps out of what isn't true, it doesn't have to be true, then the more peace we create within ourselves, the more peace we create with others, and through the butterfly effect. The other butterfly effect that people talk about, in one of the songs from Swami Kriyananda, my spiritual teacher, he said that you could try to beat darkness with a stick, or you could turn on a light switch. So there's this idea, if you project enough light into darkness, sometimes the dark tries to rise to fight against the light, right? There's all these theories, but that if the light it is noticed by the darkness, then the darkness can no longer hold the darkness. Okay. Maybe, yes, maybe, no. So that isn't necessarily how life is going to work. Let me put it this way. Parents of teens, have you told them very clearly your wise advice of what action to take and not to take, and they didn't listen, and they got into trouble? Do you remember being a teen? I remember my mom and my sister, older sister, giving me advice. Well, that was wonderful, and I didn't listen to it. because I had to go through my own lessons. So whether it's people needing to go through their own lessons or some other mechanism, here's a question you can ask. This is one of the things that I dive into a little bit more in my upcoming book, Transcendence. But what is trying to happen? Another question my spiritual teacher brought up. What is trying to happen? So sometimes that can create greater understanding. Well, oh my God, is war trying to happen here? Is constant violence trying to happen here? Is peace trying to happen here? Are two states trying to happen here? What is trying to happen here? So it's like we can buckle our seatbelts or put on our helmets and get ready for the ride of this roller coaster with greater understanding of how to ride it. Because it's hard to say that we have complete control. It's hard to say that we have that manipulation like we're God, that we can truly take certain actions and then create certain results. So there's a lot of really, really great ideas out there, right? And a lot of things that we're trying as to how to bring more peace into the world. And I feel like there's still greater understanding for us to understand around this. So I'm also asking for your ideas for this process so we can keep this conversation and this evolution going together. But let's have me also share some more ideas while I've got the mic. And then I want you all to take the mic also and share your ideas. So here's a really nice one. And this is from social psychology as well. It's called the contact hypothesis. And this was started or like more clearly started with this term and the naming of the term around the time when we were figuring out how to stop the segregation in schools between the races in US. And it didn't actually work to just put the kids together. So they found out that it works better that you have to have people actually have the opportunity to learn about each other, but you want them to be at an equal state and you want them to be working together towards a common goal. So it's like playing a game together, playing a sport together, creating a quilt together, teaching each other a lesson in class. And every single person in the group, was like the jigsaw classroom experiment, but they had these groups come together and each participant would have to teach a segment of the lesson to each other. And so they really had to support each other because the grade was dependent on getting this information from each other. And then those are the barriers where we start to realize how real these people are. There was another video, I wasn't able to find it again on YouTube that I saw. I looked these things up because I lead also diversity training in the corporate leadership seminars. But there's this great video that they purposely put people together who had biases against each other. And they would put them together without necessarily knowing that thing about the other person that they're normally biased about. And then they would have them work on a common goal. And they would just really start to respect and like each other and only find out later that they had that thing that they were biased about in the other person. And that changed their ability going forward to have a relationship with each other and having that bias. So coming together, having time together is going to be huge. And I want to say this because one of the things that creates this polarization, unfortunately, is the social media. And social media can be wonderful. What happens in the algorithms and what happens for people who are paying for ads is that we start to only get shown the things that either have the agenda of the highest paying person or just what we're interested in seeing, that we get fed more and more of that. So we stop seeing another viewpoint. Same thing when you search on Google. Did you know this? If you look up climate change and you're in a different city, it'll give you different results automatically. And Google will change its results based on what you've searched for in the past. So whenever you wonder, why doesn't somebody understand this? Why doesn't somebody see this other side? Because they're literally not being shown this other information. They're not being exposed to these other people. So I just welcome and encourage us to spend a little less time scrolling and a little more time again with each other. And then there's things that I bring up in the diversity training, like just going to movies about other cultures. There's all these festivals, eating the food, joining a group, talking to people, asking questions. So we start to lead towards other groups instead of with fear, with curiosity. Now, within every group, there can be both the good and the bad. Right? That's ultimately the truth. So our goal is always to find just what is the good? What can we relate to? What can we resonate with? And then let's move together forward with those who have the good. Bring that together. We'll do our best that we can with those of us who are in light and alignment. But we can learn so much and we'll do so much challenge from this. Really great movie also to watch to kind of just see what creating division just over simple things, the color of the eyes can cause, is the movie A Class Divided. So this was this great experiment that this teacher started to do with her students to help them see how division creates discrimination. So this is what we can do as individuals. And I wanted to just also encourage us to consider what we actually know and what we're actually experts in. I was asked to write for a magazine article, what's the first thing that I would do if I became president? And the truth is that I have not done anywhere near the research that people have who are politicians. But then I realized it's not just that I haven't done that research. Then I took the social psychology course and learned so much in it. And of course, this is an undergraduate course, so there's people who have way more expertise in social psychology than me. And I was thinking about what would gurus basically say about the wars that are happening now, right? So people who have a great sense of being in touch with intuition and the essence of human nature, basically through meditation and through the experience of their work. So I would love to see also those who are making the decisions of what to do about war be comprised of a more diverse team. Tell me what you think about this. So we start to have a team of the politicians, the experts in war, in healing war, social psychology, right? Maybe other forms of psychologists, people who are experts on humans and understanding our minds, our brains, our emotions, our thoughts. People of the highest spiritual, intuitive understanding being part of that team. People who represent both sides. So those 4 categories. It would be great to see more people come together who have the expertise. And then share your expertise, please. What do you think can also help contribute to peace? And how can we help encourage our leaders to consider those ideas and really put a compelling team together to create a better world for all of us? Blessings to you. And I'm going to send you so much love that I have inside of me and out to the world so that can continue to penetrate and we can live in a place that's easier to live in and more enjoyable. Bless.